Welcome to the Pro Church Marketing Podcast. I am Jono Long, the founder over at Faithworks Marketing, and we help churches grow. And today with me, I have Melissa Keane, who is our Google Ad Grant guru on the team. And we're going to be talking to you about some changes in 2025. So it's going to be good. There's probably going to be a few week series. We've got a few different things we want to hit and didn't want to cram those all into just one because there's a lot of stuff. So anyway, so that's me. Melissa, you have anything you want to say? You want to tell everybody like a fun fact about yourself? Because that is what you love doing.
That is my fun fact. I absolutely loathe when you have to tell a fun fact about yourself. So
Yeah.
thank you, John. That was
Yeah. She gets very mad at me when we do that in team meetings and stuff. So I've had to stop that. So Google Grant today is for really, it's really not like Google Grant 101. So if you're listening and you're thinking, hey, yeah, we want to get the Google Grant, the Google Ad Grant for our church, or you just got the ad grant, you're not really sure where to get started. That's not today. What we want you to do, and we'll link it in the show notes, but go back to early 2024. There's two episodes. It's the 2024 guide to the Google Ad Grant for churches, part 1 and part 2. And that's where you need to go. All right. That's got all the basics. We talk about how to apply. We talk about how to do your first campaign, everything you need to know to just get started. So that's where you want to be. Today is going to be more. We're going to talk about some changes that have been made for 2025. And you guys who know how Google works, they're always changing stuff. And so we're going to probably do this in 3 parts. Today, we're going to talk about what's called performance max campaigns. And we're also going to talk a little bit about how AI is being incorporated more and more. But before we get to that, we're going to just do a quick little refresher, okay? Before we break down some of the major changes and sprinkle in some tips. So we want to make this super practical for you and super helpful stuff that after you listen to this, you can go sit down at your Google Grant ad account, your ad account, and start putting into practice. But before we do that, a few refreshers. Okay, so what do we want to refresh people's memory about? And I was thinking some probably the mistakes people made that are typical mistakes that everybody makes. So Melissa, what are some of those?
okay. So the number one that I want to talk about is if you just applied for the grant and you were approved, you never want to put in any credit card information. That is a paid account, or you will accidentally turn it into a paid account. So you never want to treat your ad account or your grant account like a paid one. You should, if you just apply and you've been approved and you go, there's a billing section, it will say, we don't bill you. That's what it says. And so you never, just as the grant, you never put in your credit card. And I know I just said it so many times, but it's an easy mistake to do. And we see it time and time again. And there's no way to come back from that except for reapplying. So that's why.
And sometimes because the grant billing system doesn't necessarily, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing there as far as the ads themselves. We've heard stories, and I don't know that we've seen it with our own eyes, but Google, even though you've got the grant, there will still pop up like a notification maybe that you need to add a payment method.
So I don't think it's necessarily like that, but I think it happens maybe when you apply and then sometimes people don't go in there for a while. So then they're trying to get reconnected to their account and then they've signed in and what they think is to the Google for Nonprofits one, and it ends up not being that way. So I don't know, because it's hard to do, but easy to do. And so basically the way to avoid that is just never put in any billing information.
Yeah. Don't put any billing information in. And I was talking with someone, where they got messed up, they didn't put the billing information in their ad account, but as part of the Google ad grant or the Google grant for nonprofits, you also get free Google Workspace. So they were setting up the Google Workspace emails and stuff, and they put the payment method in over there inside of Google Workspace. And that threw everything, the ad grant and the workspace grant, that threw them back to the beginning and they had to start over and apply again. So but I also think where people get messed up is not paying attention to what Google account they're using when they're applying and keeping that straight across the board. Because if you're like me, you've got 3 or 4 Google accounts, you just got to make sure that you're logged into the right one and understand the difference between being logged into your Google business profile and your Google ad account and your Google workspace account, because they all look alike and they feel similar. And so it's easy to get confused in the Google universe. And so you just got to just be super careful. So yeah, good reminder.
The other thing, and this is kind of more just maybe expectations that mistakes can be made of. I think especially for churches, when we're talking about the Google grant, churches want people to come, they want them to walk through the door, which is great. That is the goal. And you know, we're here to help in whatever ways we can. But the Google grant, it's feature is visibility and awareness. So the Google grant is really trying to get people to your website. It is trying to get people to know who you are, because truthfully, they might have seen your church and then forgot that they saw it. And then they saw it again. And it's like, you want to keep showing up so that when they're ready to come to church, or when they need to come to church, or they, you know, yours is the church that comes to their mind, and that's where they go to. So I think it's a little bit changing the mentality of, this Google grant is going to get me bodies in the seat, which we're hoping that that's what it is, but you might not ever be able to measure it in that way of conversions. Our conversion tracking is going to be mostly people coming to your website, and maybe emails and you know, contacts that way, and lead forms. But yeah, I think that is a very big mistake, I think, sometimes, just of expectations.
Yeah, and it makes sense, because if you're a pastor, if you're a church leader, I know that you're getting served ads on Facebook and Instagram that are claiming and saying, "Hey, 10 new families every week. 10 new, we'll do some ads and we'll get you new families, new guests walking in the door every 15 minutes. You'll have 10,000 people this Sunday." Okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. So, you've got that in your head. Then you go looking at the Google ad grant and you're just assuming that, okay, well, these are ads, it's free money. And so I run these ads, people are going to show up. And it's just not that direct. Now, the good thing is that for your ads to show up, someone had to type something in Google, like church near me or church in Atlanta, whatever. So this person is more likely to show up because they are looking. There's some intent behind the search. But think about yourself. Like, if I search for a plumber right now, if my water heater stops working and I go search plumber near me, and a few plumbers come up, I click on his ad, I go to his website, and then I look at his prices. I'm like, nah, he's too expensive. I go back, click on somebody else's ad, then I go check out their social media, I go check out their Google reviews, their Yelp reviews, I look at their whatever. You're going to look at 10 different places online before you actually call this person a lot of times. And usually, by the time you talk to them, you've forgotten that it started with a Google ad. So the Google ads don't necessarily get the credit that they deserve. The journey starts with a Google ad a lot of times, but it may not be the thing that, the fifth or sixth touch that pushes them over the hill to actually show up to church. And then you think, well, my Google ads aren't working. And it's just not fair to the Google ads to discredit them like that.
Well, and what, you know, one thing that we've been trying to kind of like hammer home is, you need to be there when someone's searching for you, and you need to be visible. We want your church to be the one that shows up, whether it shows up one time and then they come back later, because a lot of times people are going to search for a church maybe, and that is not the time that they're going to go to church. They're going to search for the church, they're going to look at it, then they're going to look at the social media, then they're going to like maybe decide like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to make that decision. And then it's going to be a week or two or a month later. And then they're going to search again. They don't remember necessarily, but your church is the one that we want to show up. We want you to be there, you know. Otherwise, how are they finding you?
Yeah, exactly. So the measurement typically ends up being how many people saw your ads, and then how many of the people that saw your ads clicked on the ads. Once they got to the website, what did they do? And that's what we're measuring there most of the time. We're trying to see how many new sets of eyes came to your website, and because that's the front door for a lot of people. But yeah, Melissa's exactly right. They see your church a few times, and then they're on vacation for a week. Then the next week they're like, all right, well, we'll watch online. And then there's a soccer tournament the next week, and then they may come the next week. You never know. Or it may be 6 months down the road and they're going through something and they need some help. That there's been a loss, there's been a divorce, whatever. But we just want to make sure that the churches we're working with, the churches we're helping and advising, that you're showing up all over the place, social media, Google, so that when someone is ready, you're the obvious choice. Specifically, we want to make sure that churches that teach the Bible and love Jesus are the ones that are showing up all over the place. Because depending on where you live, like I know where I live, you can get some pretty weird results, and they ain't talking about Jesus at some of these churches. So we're on a mission to make sure that Jesus loving churches and Bible believing churches are the ones that are getting the attention. So anyway, moving.
Wait, really? Kind of going hand in hand with that. One other mistake that sometimes is made that makes this not work is if you're not setting up your ads and your campaigns correctly with the right keywords and all of that, then your ads are not going to show. So I mean that's a whole nother podcast probably, but it is a very big mistake, truthfully, that happens. So you can't just expect to put anything random in there and have your ad show up. You got to make sure you're doing the right keyword research and having relevant ad copy and having good content. So just
Yeah, and I think we're going to hit that heavy in a couple weeks, I think. But yeah, good advice there. So a couple other quick things, and we'll jump into the topic at hand. You don't want to treat this like a paid account. This grant doesn't spend as fast as it would if you did have a credit card on file. Google would spend your money really fast. You tell them to spend $1,000 a day, they're going to spend $1,000 a day of your money. When it comes to the grant, you're going to be lucky, especially that when you first get started. Like if you spend a few $100s the first month, you're doing well. Like don't get frustrated. So don't treat it like real money. You can't look at it that way. You don't need to compare it to your paid account. You can't treat it like a paid account. You're not going to get the same results. You're not going to get the same click-through rate. You're not going to get the same cost per click. It is not apples to apples. You're comparing apples to oranges if you set your grant side by side with a paid account that you're running and think, oh man, these should be exactly the same. The grant should be doing better because we got all this money to spend. A lot of times that's just
and
not the case.
Google's always going to show paid ads above the grant, which makes sense, obviously, because it's real money as opposed to the credit basically that they're giving you. So yeah, there are different things. I think it's easy when you log into an account and you see that they look the same, a paid account and the grant look the same, the dashboard, everything. It's an easy mistake to make that they're run the same. And truthfully, as Jono just said, like they are very different. There's different mentality that goes into it. There's different compliances that you have to, make sure you're doing. Even just, a lot of paid ones use maximize clicks. Well, you're not technically supposed to use that with the grant. Not even really. I mean, you can, but you're not really supposed to. So there's just a lot of things that you have to factor in, and it's different.
Yeah. In fact, I would argue that managing the Google ad grant, managing those ads is a lot more like SEO than it is like managing a paid ad account. Because if you're somebody who's listening and you've got somebody in your church or you've been paying someone who is good with Google ads to manage the grant, you're probably frustrated because there are people who are amazing at paid accounts for home services. And then you hand them the grant and they don't know what to do with it because it is night and day difference. In the same way, you can take someone who is amazing at the grant and hand them a paid account and
Yeah,
they're not going to.
I can't. Nope, I'm not your girl for that. I will.
Yeah. Melissa's going to crush it for your grant, but if you're a plumber, Melissa's doesn't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, unless you just want me to spend money and not
She'll
get
get you
any.
out of business.
Oh, great, hire me.
Just so, and then lastly, I would say the last thing that just a refresher, mistakes people made is calling it AdWords. It is not 2013 anymore. It's not called Google AdWords. When I hear AdWords, I know, because what happens a lot of times is people will say, "Yeah, I know. I can manage this myself. I'm really good at AdWords, but we'll just hire you guys to do it for us." And that's when I know, no, you're not. You couldn't manage it yourself because you're still calling it AdWords, which means you played around with it a little bit back in 13 or 14. And anyways, I don't mean to be condescending, but just stop calling it AdWords because it's not. It's Google Ads. It's Google Ads. That's been going a long time, and that really dates you when I hear you say AdWords. So
obviously really bothers Jono, so make sure not to use that.
It gets under my skin. It gets under my skin. Sorry.
It wasn't obvious, so it's pretty
So I don't have a poker face. Sorry. Okay, so jumping in, let's talk about we're talking about things that are kind of new, changes that have been made to Google, and so today we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about what is called a Performance Max campaign. Performance Max is something that's been around for a while. It's been something that you could use on a paid account, but we could not use for ads that were part of the grant program. And the cool thing is now you can. So Melissa is going to tell us more about what Performance Max is, what that even means, and what are some of the benefits? How does this work? What do we need to do to take advantage of this? Just give us the rundown.
Okay. So yeah, as Jono said, Performance Max, I think technically it was around for the grant maybe since 2023, but I've never been able to use it for any of our grant accounts. So it is really exciting. So basically, what we've been able to do with the grant really is just search ads. So just shows up the text ads. Performance Max is a little more AI, which some of you are already like, whoa, I don't want any part of that. But it's a good thing because a person still totally needs to be involved. And what it is you are now being able to use images, you're being able to use videos, and it's not just search ads. It's now across YouTube, display networks, discovery, Gmail, Maps, search. It's across all of where Google advertises. And so the good thing about it, when you set up a campaign for it, basically the person, you or me, whoever's doing it, puts in the pertinent information as whatever you're trying to set that campaign for. You put in the pictures and the videos that I was just saying, and then Google is finding where to show it. Like it's like they're using that AI part to figure out where to show it and how to show it better. Who's searching for it? It's a more broad way to find who's looking for you, basically. Maybe who doesn't even know that they're looking for you. So it's still, for at least us. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and you people who say AdWords, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, oh, that's AdWords Express. That sounds like AdWords Express. I remember that. And I'll give it to, okay, kinda. Yes, kinda. You're giving Google a little bit more control. They tend to reward that somewhat. And so yeah, anyway, yeah, it's kind of like AdWords Express, I guess. So sorry for making fun of you who say AdWords. Anyway, back to you, Melissa.
This is all before me, so I don't even know any of this, but you're really dating yourself. So basically, Google is optimizing when and where to show your ads. And that is what's good. Now, like I said, it's still kind of being newly rolled out, if you will, for all the grant accounts. So there's still data to be had. You still want to watch it closely. Like, for instance, I set it up for a few churches, and I've had really good results for some, and then no joke, just last week I set it up for one who I actually thought for sure I was going to get the best results, and it hasn't been doing well. So I'm having to, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that you still have to watch it. You still need to optimize. You still need to make sure that you're looking at the keywords, and there's still research and all the things that go into it. This is just a bigger scale. It's just more that we can do with the grant than we've been able to do before. So I'm excited about it, truthfully.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because up until now, I mean, we've just been able to do some text ads at the top of Google. And so, yeah, to now have,
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, to really show the church, use some visuals, show up on YouTube, and other places on the internet. That's good stuff. So,
yeah. And the thing is like, it's not, I kind of want to touch back on the AI part where some of you might be a little worried. It's not replacing a person or you. Google isn't able just to do any and everything it wants. You're still giving it the main content. So you still need to make sure you're giving it correct content. You still need to make sure it's coming from a relevant place on your website, because you're putting in, the landing page that you want the ads to be, to run to. You're putting in headlines. You're still doing all the things you would normally do. You're just it's just one less step in a sense. And then they're finding where it will run better, basically. That makes sense.
yeah, gotcha. So yeah, this is not hands off, and it's definitely not like you still got to figure out
Yes.
Google ads. You're still going to have to do some learning and be involved. This is not like AI just writing a paper for you. It's not, this is AI filling in some of the gaps that they've got access to data for that, so you and I, we can write ads and stuff, but like figuring out where it's going to perform better and where, those kinds of things, that's just data we're not necessarily privy to. Or
Well, and because here's the thing, if you have the grant and you've logged in and you've looked, now they're really trying to push the AI, and the first thing is always like, oh, let me help you generate your ads and your headlines. And truthfully, I always say skip. I don't want them to do that for me, because most of the time in that part of it, it's not accurate. Whereas with the PMAX, it's a little bit different, because I'm still putting in that information, the main pertinent information, and then they're going to the website and getting it. So it's kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse on that, but I do think I think it's going to be good. And so far we've had pretty good results.
And so you would say, I'm thinking like a question may be, okay, so can I just do Performance Max campaigns, or do I do these in addition to some other campaigns as
I
part of the grant?
still want to do the search ads. Like that is still really what the grant is like founded on, if you will. And you need to do that. You still need to do, and no, you don't want to do PMAX for everyone. In fact, again, I wouldn't say I have all the answers, because like I said, it's new. So where one thing with the grant too, and I think what people don't do enough, you got to do a lot of A/B testing, and you got to see what works and what doesn't. So sometimes you even kind of want to have similar campaigns going or similar ad groups going to see what's working better or not. So I would start off with maybe one PMAX, and let's see. You don't want to have multiple, at least that I know of right now. I could be wrong, and I will come back later and say if that was wrong. But from what I've learned so far, no, you don't want to just PMAX.
Yeah, you don't want to just rely on that. So if you're thinking like, okay, cool, I've been struggling to set up Google Ads using the grant, I don't know what to do, but now that there's PMax out there and it sounds like it'll do a lot for me, I'll just do that. Yeah, you won't be happy and you won't get good results just doing that. This is a tool in the arsenal, but you need different kinds of campaigns going, which is another place I think people mess up a lot whenever we've like helped other agencies sometimes, or just, audited, whenever a new account comes in and they had somebody else managing it. A lot of times it's just, you just haven't done much with it and you haven't made many campaigns and you haven't made many ad groups. And so there
Great
is
point.
a, there is a, quality over quantity is a big deal, but quantity and quality is a big deal here. Like there needs to be some quantity to your campaigns.
Yes, yes, there does, but quality is still better. But yeah, you can't come in and have one campaign and expect to spend $10,000. Like it's not logical. It's not going to happen probably, unless you're some ginormous organization that's through the whole world. Then maybe, but even still, even those organizations, because you never want to have a campaign that's for a lot of different things. Like each campaign has ad groups, but they're for specific things. You have a branded campaign, you have a church near me campaign, you have a children's, campaign, you have a Christmas, or, those kind of things. It's not just a catch-all.
Yeah. Yeah. So get creative with it. Make multiple campaigns, make them good. Make sure that there's stuff on your website that correlates with that. We'll talk more about that in the content, because that's another next week's podcast about content, landing pages and stuff like that, because that's one of the weakest areas that we have. So what else? What else do we need to know about Performance Max? Somebody's sitting here listening. They're like, okay, cool. That's cool. I'm glad that we have it. And I'm going to go look at that today and see if I can set something up. Any tips, tricks that somebody needs to know for Performance Max, or have we kind of hit it?
No, I think that we've kind of hit it. I would just say make sure they want YouTube videos, have some good YouTube videos, have good images. You can have up to 20 images. So pictures, make sure you have good pictures. Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty. The PMAX to set up is a little bit almost easier, I think, to set up than the normal campaign, because you don't have to do the ad group like separate. So you just want to make sure you have enough content and relevant content to fill in. But yeah, I think if, as long as you have pictures and videos and the content, yeah, try it out. Let us know how it
Well,
goes.
and so back to the AI just for a minute, we'll end with that. Like anything else as far as AI, yeah, it's a little scary. It's freaking people out.
Yeah.
We're all how do we need to use what's the best way to use the AI? And I know we still need to pay. It's we can't be hands off, right?
Right. And I think now it's up to every person individually, but my advice would be, don't, if you're running your own grant, don't do all the AI recommendations that Google gives you.
Yeah.
That is, I think that is where you will run into problems. But things like Performance Max that use AI more, that is okay, because you're still doing the steering. You're still doing the important kind of like foundation. So you really have the control. We have the control of that. When we're just letting them do anything and everything, then I can see where the issue comes in. But the Performance Max is the good part of AI. You're doing the important stuff. You're saying what you want. You're giving your call to actions, and you're giving your mission of your church in there. And then they're using the AI to find the people that are looking for that, basically. So that is why it going hand in hand is a good thing. You're not giving over and just, letting AI, robots do whatever. It's more of what AI should be, I think, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So it's going to enhance it. It's going to enhance it. It's like somebody, having, I think you'd said this, just like a really smart intern
Right.
doing some of the heavy lifting, which I think is a good way to look at it.
This is like on all the time, like they, for the PMAX, it's kind of like 24/7. They're out there searching and figuring out the audiences. They have that ability to see who's been to your site or who's searching that and what areas, and whereas we can't be doing that 24/7, so.
Right. Right. So yeah, it's making it more efficient. It's saving you some time. It's just making it better. But yeah, all of those AI generated, at the top of the account, like here, you should do this, add this, and get rid of this. Those are just generated. They're not specific. They
Yeah,
don't take into account your context and what you're trying to accomplish. It's just general stuff. It's still, Google's a robot, and it's a pretty smart robot, but it's still dumb in some areas too. It is still just a robot,
they
So
still know your church or your mission better than you do. So that's why you don't want to just let them, you don't want to click every button to do what they say. You want to make sure, you want to look at it. Some of them are good. Some of them you'll look and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I think that's good. But more times than not, probably you can do it better in that moment than they can.
yeah, think through. Just think it through. Don't just take them at their word, and use your brain, and take the good, get rid of the bad. So cool. All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers what we wanted to cover with Performance Max. If you have any questions, definitely hit us up at, you can email us at hello@faithworksmarketing.com, or you can shoot us a message on social media. Definitely go follow us, Faithworks Marketing on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a Pro Church Marketing Facebook group that you can join, where we just kind of throw around, bounce ideas off each other, help each other out as much as we can. And yeah, I think that about covers it. Anything else we need to throw at anybody?
I think so.
All right. Well, look, come back next week for episode 2. We're going to be talking about content and landing pages, because churches are notorious for not wanting a whole lot of content on their website, which I get. Everybody wants it to be nice and clean and not a lot of gunked up with a lot of words. We've all seen ugly websites that are full of words. However, Google still needs words to make these ads work, and they use words to understand your website, what your church is about. And so your grant's going to perform better when there are words on your website. And so we're going to talk more about that and give you some strategies to, get some words on your website without gunking the whole thing up and making it look like a novel. So check back in next week. And until then, we'll catch you later.